Hey y'all, Fred here. Thanks so much for joining me today. We are going to take a look at a very interesting cleaver style knife that, again, this is one of the series. We're still in the middle of this big box of knives that John sent in for us to take a look at. That man is just sitting on the internet all day long, scouring all of the interwebs for the best, most affordable versions of replica knives. And so this is a very interesting one that he found. And actually, in this entire box, I think this is probably my favorite knife out of the bunch that he sent. And, you know, he sent a bunch of interesting, good knives. Before we get started here, if you haven't already, throw me a thumbs up in advance if you just want to help the channel out. Otherwise, if you haven't already subscribed, we'd love to have you join our little band of renegades here. I'm also interested to know, does anybody have this knife, whether it's the replica or the real version of this knife? Let me know down in the comments, because I'm very curious about this knife. I haven't really had a chance to put it through its paces yet. Haven't carried it. I'm just doing kind of an initial review here out of the box, what it looks like. Speaking of the box, this is the box it came in. So this is a very legitimate company, a knife maker called Willumsen Copenhagen, depending on how you want to pronounce that. It's the 𝗪𝗍 series of knives. I think they have several that fit in that. There's a name here on the box that I could not even begin to pronounce. I think that's the model, 𝗪𝗶𝗹𝗃𝗄. So there was a first one. DK27, baller up. I think John probably bought this knife because it said baller up somewhere on the name. This is a company out of Denmark, which is where Copenhagen is. Willumsen Copenhagen. Copenhagen is a city in Denmark, in case you did not know that. I do want to share what's in the box, because to me, this is impressive. Now, I couldn't find the price that he paid for this, but I guarantee he did not pay the $80 that this knife would cost new. So I'm going to say, unless he just found a bargain basement giveaway, this is going to be maybe another Chinese replica. That's my best guess. But man, the stuff you get in this box, first of all, this is a nice it's a spongy mesh bag. You can kind of see through it a little bit here. Very nicely done with a tag. Of all the bags that I have seen knives come in, man, this is the nicest one there. But that's not all. So you also get this rubberized Velcro patch with their brand. Very cool. I actually love that. Very cool. And it comes with not only an additional pocket clip, so it's a plain pocket clip. What we haven't gotten to yet is this one. You can see it says 𝗪𝗍 on the pocket clip. I like that. I think that's very cool as far as you're going to be displaying your brand on there. I like that. But if you don't like that for some reason, they gave you a plain pocket clip. That's pretty nice. And of course a screw, and then the Torx bit in order to change that out. Little Torx driver in there. So yeehaw for that, because that's pretty darn cool. Normally you don't get that much cool stuff, and you usually especially don't get them in these cheap replica knives. Of course, they're trying to obviously replicate even an $80 knife, y'all. I mean, how many $80+ knives have y'all gotten that don't even have that much stuff in there? So pretty cool on that. Let's do some size comps real quick before we get into more details. So let's do it against the PM2, in that case the OK81, still a favorite. You can see it is considerably shorter than both, including the Para 3. However, it has a little bit shorter of a cutting edge than the Para 3 as well. It has its place. This is a definite purpose-built kind of a knife. You got the Civivi Vision FG and the Rocky Raccoon from Vostede. Shorter than obviously both of these knives. So this is on the smaller side, although I'm going to say still a very EDC-able kind of knife. Lots of good features on this thing. Looking forward to sharing this one with you. Barely makes it past, and I know the perspective seems a little off here. Y'all have to trust me that based on where I can see this. I've got the ends of these. Just barely makes it over the dollar bill. So again, I'm going to say this is obviously on the smaller side of a knife. Let's bring down the specs down the left-hand side of the screen. You can see in the full open position, this is a 6.6 knife. 2.8 on the blade, but it depends on where you're measuring to. You can see there's a lot of difference in between here and here, depending on your measurement. So this is probably true to the original. In the closed position, it's 4.12, makes it fairly short this way, but obviously fairly tall in the pocket this way. The blade thickness on this one is a thinner 122 thousandths. The original comes in 140 thousandths, which to me would have been too thick. So I'm actually a big fan of having this at 122 thousandths. This is a nice, big, thick, beefy blade. You could certainly do a little bit of light prying with that, especially at the right price. You don't have to worry about it. I'm glad this came in at 122. Of course, it's John's knife, so I bet he's glad about that. Handle thickness on this one is also a little bit thinner at 43 tenths or 43 hundredths, I guess that would be, versus ½ inch on the original. So the original is a little bit thicker than this one as well. This is a stonewash finished blade here, a mostly flat grind. We'll guess to call that a saber grind, but it's not hollow or anything. It's a flat grind here. Carbon fiber scales. These are legitimate carbon fiber. They are over nested steel liners. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. The original one comes in a 14C 28N. Does this say that on here? I didn't even notice on the blade if it says 14C. I don't see 14C on here. I'm going to guess probably this is not a 14C, but who knows? And it's going to be hard to tell because actually 14C, in my experience, doesn't really hold an edge very well. It's one of the least edge retention type steels of the decent steels. Like, I'd rather have a D2 steel over a 14C any day, and I've tested a lot of knives, and my D2s always outperform unless it's just a super cheap Chinese. But I mean, even the stats will tell you that D2 has a much better edge retention than 14C. But a lot of people like it, and there's a lot of benefits to it. It's, you know, stainless, and it's easy to strop back. There's a lot of good features to it as well. Just a hair under 4 ounces overall, makes it certainly plenty light in the pocket. This is a liner lock, in case you hadn't seen that. We'll take another peek at that in a minute. Again, the original one comes in just about $80. I have no idea what John paid for this, and he couldn't find his paperwork on it either. I did measure behind the edge, and because you've got this very tall, flat grind and a relatively thin blade, this thing is slicey. It's 15 thousandths behind the edge. That is on the very slicey end of the spectrum in terms of sliciness. All right, let's take a little bit of a closer look. We have a T8 on both sides, non-captive pivot screw. We have, I believe these are T6 on the body screws. I don't have my screwdriver right here to test, and now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, is that a T6 or a T8? Here's a T6. We'll tell real quick. I can't even get my T6 in there. Maybe this is a T8. That's why. Yeah, this is a T8. So no, these are T6s on the body, which means the pocket clip's going to be a T6 as well, most likely. So the pocket clip on this thing, again, we took a look at this a little bit earlier. Very cool. I actually like this a lot. This is a very stiff pocket clip, but to my opinion, it's well done. It's a short pocket clip. The lip is not too terribly tall. Kind of hard to see from that perspective. It definitely goes easy in and out of the pockets. This is a very thick, tall clip right here. So you're going to be able to use this knife in like heavy-duty work pants. Like you got extra thick pockets on your work pants. This is a great knife for that. But the pocket clip, you can see it's nested inside the liners or inside the carbon fiber scales. It is reversible. You can see over here. So what you'd have to do is take the scales off, and then you would undo the pocket clip from the inside, flip it around to the other side, and this screw here would now go onto the inside and hold your pocket clip on the outside. So if you wanted, you could actually put the second pocket clip right here, and you'd have a pocket clip on both sides. How many people in the world have a knife with a pocket clip on both sides of the knives? Might be a little uncomfortable, but you would certainly be an original there. All right, what else do we want to say about this thing? It does have a steel back spacer on here with some jimping on it that actually is quite grippy. It's not uncomfortable, but definitely nice and grippy. There is some chamfering around the edges of the carbon fiber scales that makes it fairly comfortable. They could have gone deeper in the chamfering, but I'm going to tell you, in the hand, it does feel pretty good. I will tell you, this is, again, on the smaller side, if you hadn't already seen that. I'm a size large glove, and I just fit. Now, for me, this is a perfect fit back here. If I wanted to be choked back and really get into a cut, this fits my hand perfectly, but I've got fairly skinny fingers. However, it has a massive front choil up here with a little bit of jimping even there to grip down. Y'all know I'm a big fan of a front finger choil, and right here, now if you're size XL or larger, you're still going to fit into this knife, and this is really how this knife is meant to be used. If you're cutting in this direction, is to be using that forward choil, and it's a big choil, so even fat, meaty sausage fingers, no offense to you guys, are going to fit very comfortably into this forward choil. That is super cool in my opinion. The lock mechanism is very solid on this thing. It is a nested liner lock, as you can see here. This is pretty early. I'm going to say this is about 30% on the steel liner lock. I did do a blade whack test. It is not going to break out of that blade whack no matter what, so very solid in there. Yeehaw for that. There's a little bit of jimping on this flipper. There's both a flipper and thumb studs for deployment. You can certainly, well, I say you can certainly do it. Let me see, make sure I can. I haven't reverse flipped this knife, I guess. All right, so it's a little awkward to reverse flip. Y'all know I'm pretty good at reverse flipping knives. I've flipped one or two in my day. I'm just always using this the regular flipper tab. But let's see if I can do this. Yeah, it's just going to take a little getting used to on that. It's the direction that you have to push on this thing. Sometimes you get the meat of your finger and you push out like that, and that's what's going to launch it, I think. That's the best way to launch this knife. Instead of trying to flip up with your finger, you're just using the meat of your finger and pushing it straight out, and that flips it out. Thumb flip is very good. I'll say very good. It's kind of hard to fail this knife. So they've got the detent. Yeah, that was about as soft as I can push that tab, and it's still locked in. The detent is actually just about perfect. It's pretty solid, y'all. I mean, that takes a pretty good amount of force to break that thing free. So that's what makes it well dialed in for all methods of deployment there. Nice and smooth, obviously on bearings. This thing does not bounce, and I'm a big fan of that. Y'all know I hate it when a knife bounces. When this closes, it sticks the landing even when you flip it closed hard. And it does have a good heavy blade all the way out to the tip, so that makes it drop shut pretty good and solid. So I'm pretty happy with that. The smoothness, the detent, the action on it, the drop shut action, the deployment methods are all good, smooth, and easy. Let's talk about this blade shape a little bit. So this is a cleaver style blade. I didn't originally think I liked cleaver style blades, and this one has sold me a little bit on it. In terms of EDC stuff, the most common cut I'm doing is this draw cut right here. I'm opening packages, or I'm even breaking down boxes. I'm cutting like this, in which case you can get your finger right up there in that choil so that you're not, the cardboard's not going into the choil. Great for cutting, breaking down cardboard like that. Great for draw cuts like this. It's got a good belly on it that you can actually get most of that belly accessed even with the knife down on the table. So in terms of cutting rope or hose or anything like that, it's going to be really good. The only downside is it doesn't have a very sharp, pokey tip sticking out the end, but it does have enough of a tip. I can't imagine that there's going to be too many things unless you really just have to do piercing cuts for some reason. I mean, this is not a defensive style blade because it's not going to poke anybody very well, but everything else, all the other features for this style of blade, for EDC stuff, this is a really good, well done blade in terms of that. Again, I just don't know how well the steel will hold up. Depends on what this turns out to be. There is jimping, although I'm going to say this is mostly decorative. There is almost zero grippiness to this. So this is, a jimping fail where there's no edges to it, and it's not deep enough to do anything of any real value there. I mean, maybe you can get a little bit extra grip out of it, but man, that's just really giving it more credit than is probably due. This large finger choil also makes for a very nice sharpening choil, so you can easily reprofile and or sharpen this blade many times before you're going to run into any issues with that. Speaking of sharpness, it did come actually quite sharp out of the box. Let me see a piece of paper here. I've been beating this one up in prior videos. That is a nice, smooth, easy cut. I'm going to say that's a 10 out of 10 right there. And for a factory grind, y'all, that is pretty darn good. Gotta love that. Did it come centered? Well, look at that. I'm going to say yes on the centering. Let's see if I hold it this way. You can get a little light behind it. Hard to see. It depends on how well I hold that blade. But yeah, you're going to have to trust me. The blade came centered on this thing. It is good. The factory sharpening was good. Ergonomically, it's a little thinner than I would like. And a lot of people like that. I like my knives closer to a 1/2 inch. That just fills the hand a little bit better. That being said, it is a very comfortable knife anyway. It's lightweight. It's well balanced. The balance is, you know, just right, kind of right on that pivot there. Yep, right at just the back edge of the pivot is where this thing balances out. I get forward choil. Ergonomically, I'm all day about this kind of knife right here for my draw cuts, which are super easy with this style, and then those forward cuts, as I said. Any negatives on this thing? T6 body screws. It's not pokey, but that's what you get with a cleaver style blade, so you can't complain about that. The action is good, man. The ergonomics are good. The quality feels good on this knife. It does have nested steel liners. I think I mentioned that. It's going to be hard to see. I don't know if I can even get this on camera or not, but the liners are milled out heavily to keep the weight down on this thing. That matched up with the carbon fiber scales. You can't even see the liners. They're nested in there. You know, it's under 4 ounces. What do you want? It's a good knife. Oh, the only other downside, I guess, would be the amount of space it takes up in your pocket. So it's not heavy. It's certainly not tall, but it is tall this way. It's not long, but it is tall this way. So, you know, in your pocket, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna be up against the edge of your pocket over here. So you're not gonna be able to like get that clip all the way out to the right side of your pocket if you're a righty like most of us. Or even lefty, you're going to switch it around and have the same exact problem. So it's going to stick out of the pocket. It's going to move over a little bit and take up more space in your pocket than you might want to have. That being said, all else, man, I love this knife. I think this is a really good, well done knife that is certainly purpose driven, but for an EDC style knife that's going to do 99% of the things you have to do around the house, I think this is a great knife. So there you go. What do you think? Has anybody ever had one of these knives, and how did it hold up for you? That's what I really want to know. We'll do some cut testing and see how it holds up in our cut tests, but I think I do like this knife, but I'd love to hear what you guys think about it as well. Let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, I appreciate y'all as always. If you haven't already, hit me a thumbs up. That helps the channel out. I really do appreciate that. I genuinely do. Hit the subscribe notification bell if you're not already and you like these kind of videos. Want to see a few more? YouTube doesn't show my videos to anybody anyhow, but you know, it'll help a little bit. Certainly helps me out if you want to just reward me for the effort. I appreciate that. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys. Look forward to chatting with you in the comments. We'll see you soon. Have a good day.